Hey, what's up? It's your boy Kurt the Jerk saying what up. I hope everybody's doing great. Today we're gonna talk about debt collection and how it affects a lot of people's lives, and ways and remedies where you can kind of like fix this situation or make it better or probably even get a dismissal. A lot of stuff that you see on YouTube, I believe that they leave out a lot of different things that you can actually challenge when it comes to these debts. Not saying that you don't owe them, but the key is for whoever bought the debt. If it's and this is just for the sake of names. If it's Midland Credit Fund, if it's Portfolio Recovery, or if it's LMV, whatever the name is, I always get that name mixed up. If it's any of those credit agencies, any agency, just for the sake of names, big debt buyers, sometimes they don't have all the necessary information to actually do the lawsuit. So as a result, they'll just send a lawsuit to your district, whatever state you live in. And unfortunately, a lot of times you see the debt come in the mail, you don't challenge it, and you're like, oh, I'm not going to challenge it because I don't want to challenge it because I know I owe the debt. But you got to actually challenge it first. Let me hold on one minute. Let's get people time to join this live, because this is very important information. If you're out here and you owe debt, maybe there's ways to get it resolved. And remind you, this is for entertainment purpose. I'm not an attorney. I'm just a person that been to court quite a few times, and I can give you my experiences and just let you know I never lost a case. And they're pretty straightforward, pretty simple. And I think I want to share this information to you guys. So if you're interested, stick around and just give me a minute to get the crowd going and stuff. I'm trying to get some people in here. You know what I'm saying? You got to challenge it. So I'm trying to get some people in here real quick. I want to have a few viewers up here so they could watch it together. So it just don't be one or two people. I want to have a couple of people in here. Just give me a minute. It's going to take a little time. I'm trying to get the audience. I know there's a lot of people that was asking me questions. It's like, yo, once you do a video about debt collection, you always talk about this debt collection stuff and you don't never do a video about it. So guess what? I'm doing a video about it now. So now I can help people out and give them some insight on what they should do. I live in the state of New Jersey. I've been dealing with New York for a long time. New York to me is pretty much easier. Jersey is a little bit more steps, but it's not impossible. So I wanted to make sure that you understand that it's not impossible. It's not impossible. It's not really hard at all. Just don't be scared and just don't give up. Just don't be like, oh, well, because no, you know what I'm saying? Don't just quit and say, oh, well, I know I owe the debt, so I'm just not going to challenge it. No, you don't do that. You fight everything. You fight everything that throws your way. You know why? Because you never know. You know what I'm saying? You never know if the debt buyer got all the necessary information to even charge you in the first place. But how would you know that if you don't take the time out and do your own investigation? On car repossession, there's things on car repossession, but I will have to actually do that. And how you doing, cuz? I will have to actually do that on the next video. There's a lot of tricks to that too. Like car repossession is not exempt from it either. I could definitely talk about that in the next topic, but this topic is specifically for debt collections. If you got a debt collection lawsuit, I'm here to help you, help you with the information that I know. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, this is for entertainment purpose. I'm not an attorney. I always tell you to consult with an attorney if you need to. But if you feel confident, if you know how to talk, if you have, a little bit of you have a little conversation, you can read some information, do some research on the person that's suing you, because that goes a long way to getting your case dismissed. Because who knows, the person you're suing you can have an active class action lawsuit. You don't know what's going on. So in order to understand that, you need to do a little research to double check. Yeah. So it's very important. Let me see if I get some. Okay, so far we got 200 people watching. All right, this is cool. This is great. I wish there was more people watching, but I guess it's during the day and it's spare at the moment. And I didn't put out anything saying that I was doing a video like this because I think it's very important. All right, we're gonna start with pretty much New Jersey, right? We're gonna do New Jersey because Jersey is very important, and I know a lot of people live in Jersey or have debts in Jersey. So we're basically gonna talk about Jersey. Pretty much debts in Jersey and stuff like that. All right, moving forward, this is how it works. A lot of basically this can go for any state. You just gotta look at your rules and regulations for either state. So what I'm saying is actually a broad statement that can actually, whatever state you live in, it actually can help you. All right. A lot of times, all right, what's basically, you know what? Let's start from the beginning. Let's start like, what are debt buyers? A lot of people don't know what debt buyers are. Debt buyers are companies that buy debt for pennies on the dollar, and then they go out and try to recoup the money from said from the people. So basically, if you owe a debt and that debt and you owe a debt to whatever agency, usually credit card agencies, and let's say you owe them some money, and you haven't paid them and stuff like that, and they say, okay, well, we're gonna charge you off your account. That means they charge it off. They're gonna write it off on their taxes, taken as a total loss on their business transaction. But what they're also gonna do is sell your debt pennies on the dollar to a debt collection agency. In some cases, they sell it. In some cases, they don't even sell it. People obtain the information illegally, like these debt buyers. Sometimes they don't actually get the information where they have the purchase agreement, the bank statement, all the necessary detailed stuff that you are required to have from the law. Because like, let's say, for example, let's say a debt buyer is suing me, right? And he said, yeah, you owe this debt for this amount of money. Well, before you admit guilt to the debt, you need to look at the information that they have. Tell them that you want the purchase agreement, you want the titles, and then let's say if it passed hands in hands, because sometimes you'll get a form that passed, like a lawsuit form that passed multiple different debt collection agencies. You want to know the agreement, the purchase agreement for each individual one, title assignments and all that stuff. And the reason why it's very important, because sometimes these debt buyers that sell it to another debt buyer, they don't want to be on the hook or get sued by selling false information. So a lot of times they leave a clause in there saying, we can't verify accuracy of debt. That's something very important, because if it says that, that's grounds for a dismissal. That's one way you could probably get a dismissal on it. And sometimes a lot of these debt buyers, they'll purposely send they'll serve you at an address you don't live at, and they can't find you, and they keep on sending paperwork, and then they ask the judge, we can't find them, what we can do. So what they do is they'll put an ad in the newspaper. In some states, you're allowed to put an ad on social media trying to find an individual person, and then that'll be substantial enough for them to go back to court and get a default judgment. I think that's horrible, because I think they should be able to find you before they could take you to court. And then sometimes debt buyers have been known to lie and say that they served you and they didn't, so they can get a judgment. And once they get a judgment, they're gonna contact the marshals or the sheriffs, and whatever job you're working at, probably barely making ends meet. Now they're gonna automatically do a wage garnishment for up to 10%, usually depending on what state you're in. So it's very important to really examine any information you get from a debt buyers, and don't ignore it. If any debt agency contact you, ask them for a list of things. Ask them for proof of agreement that you purchased it, like a bill of sale, along with a purchase agreement. You also want a balance, a statement showing that you owe the balance, basically from zero to the balance that they're saying that they're suing you about. You want that. You also want pretty much that's the most important things you want. And the reason why you need it is because you want to be able to properly challenge this debt. So they can mess around and let's say they say you owe $1,000, right? But send you a statement from the agency that you did business with, the original agency, and it says you only owe $400. That's already a discrepancy. That's grounds for dismissal. Perhaps if you put it in the right way, because a lot of people can't really afford to get attorneys for debts of like $1,000, $2,000, even $5,000. Sometimes they can't afford an attorney for that, because they won't be owing $5,000. If they have money like that, they probably would pay it if they're getting sued, but they can't afford attorneys. So this is another alternative. You could take matters to your own hands. I recommend you do a lot of research. Remember, this is for entertainment purpose. So anything I say, you can do your research, but it's pretty much easy to beat debt buyers. And the reason why is because debt buyers, I got to get back to that because I'm bouncing all over the place. Debt buyers, what they normally do is they go to, what debt buyers do? Debt buyers get a list of names, social security numbers, accounts, and all that stuff. And it'd be like maybe hundreds or thousands of accounts. They pay 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 pennies on a dollar, right? And what that counts, all they're gonna do is send letters trying to collect. They don't always go to trying to sue you. That's always the last alternative. What they'll do is they try to settle with you. So that's like, let's say if you owe $1,000 to a credit agency and the debt buyer bought your debt. Now he bought it for pennies on the dollar. So that $1,000 debt, he must have paid $100 for it, or maybe even $50-something for it, depending on if you bought it in bulk, different debts. Now moving forward, hey, I settle with you for $250. If you do it right now, act now, I'll settle you for $250. And you sitting there like, wow, I owed $1,000, so they're gonna settle for $250. That's amazing. Yes, I'm gonna take the deal. So a lot of times people take the deal because they can't afford to pay $1,000, but they can afford to pay $250, which is not bad, provided that the debt buyer has all the necessary information, such as your detail information. They have to have all your detail information. They have to have your you have to have the original contract with the original creditor. They have to show proof that they purchased it. That's very important. You want all this information before you go ahead and pay this $250. Now, if they could provide you all that, then that'd be fine. You make a payment arrangement, you pay them, whatever the case is. But if they can't provide the information, then you say, listen, y'all don't have the proper information. I don't think you own this debt, and I'm not paying you guys nothing. In some cases, they'll take you to court. A lot of cases they won't, because the reason why they say it's always good to challenge a debt. If you already giving them a headache, challenge it in the beginning. A lot of times they don't want to go to court because they already know that you're going to challenge it again. So a lot of times they kind of overlook you and they go to the next person. Because remember, they buy hundreds and thousands of names and send hundreds of thousands of lawsuits all over the country. So they're not going to get hell bent on yours unless you got a very large debt. If we talking about 30 grand, $40,000 debt, something big like that belongs to Superior Court or something like that, then maybe, just maybe, they're going to go to every length to try to collect the money from you. That's just how it works. So this is very important information, guys. I want you to share and like and subscribe my YouTube channel, Kurt the Jerk. Also, look at us on Awareness Academy 411, where we give you the 411 on a lot of various different subjects. We have guests on there sometimes, professionals, money. We're going to have a few people on that's coming up in the upcoming weeks. Y'all going to be excited. I know I'm excited to interview them. And they're going to basically talk about a whole range of topics. We're going to talk about money because I think right now the economy is not doing so great. And I think a lot of times we have situations with money. So debt buying and money is two things that's very important to everybody, right? Not debt buying. I'm sorry, debt. Debt is very important just to know how to challenge it, But don't listen to the YouTube videos when they say, oh, you could just challenge it and that's it. A lot of times it don't go that way. I'm going to tell you, I've been in court many times because I'm bad with money. I can admit it. I'm not the best with money. I made a lot of poor decisions. And as a 43-year-old man, who's to say I'm not going to make any more poor decisions in the future? So just letting you know, you have to challenge all your debt collectors. When they come after you, if it's not from the state and the state is not coming out, because the state going to have the information, they're going to have the ducks in a row. But you still challenge them too. You know why? Because a lot of times when you go to court, you could just do a settlement. And settlements is okay if they have all their ducks in a row. And like, let's say if you owe something for $5,000 and they say we'll settle for $2,500, 50%, or even better, if you got $1,500 hard cash right now, we could settle this debt for $1,500. I'm not telling you not to take that deal. I think that's a great deal, provided that they have all the necessary documents supporting the claim that they own the debt. I have no problem with that. The problem with these debt buyers, a lot of times they don't even buy the debt, but they want to come after you for it. You know what I'm saying? So your job is to challenge every single thing that comes at your way. But I guarantee you one thing, if you don't show up for court, you get a default judgment, and that's worse than anything you could possibly imagine. You know why? Because let me give you how this works. Let's say if you get a default judgment, right? And it was only for like maybe $1,000, right? They can mess around and say, okay, well, now you're paying that $1,000. Now the second step is you got to pay attorney fees, filing fees, and all kinds of fees, and they could just throw any astronomical number out there. So you thinking, all right, I didn't go to court, so I owe $1,000. Now that $1,000 turned to $2,000. You're like, what the hell? And you get a letter saying that you got a demand to pay $2,000, and it's already being handled by marshals, and they're gonna start doing wage garnishment. He said, but I thought all I had to do was pay $1,000. How the hell they get off? Because once you don't show up, you're not there to advocate for yourself. So now the the judges will give the attorney whatever they want. But oh yeah, you know, filing fees, court fees, attorney fees, and next thing you know, all these fees get added, and now you got a whole different amount that you're paying for. So the key is to challenge it. Challenge every single thing. Now the next step is we're going to talk about the 5 steps. I won't even say 5 steps. We're going to just talk about steps in general. What are the steps, the way that we could try to challenge these debts? All right. Not being properly served. That's very important. Like maybe you got the paper, somehow you got it in the mail, or maybe the court send you the letter, but you never received it from them directly. That's grounds for dismissal. And that happens. You know, debt buyers sometimes do that on purpose, in my opinion. This is all about opinion. This is not a fact right here. I think they do it, in my opinion, they do that so you won't show up for court, and they're going to lie and say that, oh, they breached a contract, and Your Honor, we request for all this, and they were served and stuff like that. Sometimes they do that. They'll lie and say that you were served and you wasn't. So always keep a lookout for your mail. Because sometimes very important stuff don't come in a certified. Sometimes it comes in regular standard mail, and I can contest to that. I got a couple of pieces of correspondence that was very important and vital to one of the recent cases I just handled that came in regular mail. Because I guess they assumed I was going to overlook it. Or who knows? Maybe they thought I probably didn't really live at the address because I wasn't responding to anything else. Who knows? But nevertheless, they lost, you know? Now, let me tell you about my previous case. I had all my paperwork together. A debt collector came after me. They sued me, and I never received any correspondence from them, right? What they did is the court system in the state of New Jersey sent me a letter, and that's the only reason it was certified. They sent the certified letter stating that I need an answer to a demand from such and such company. So I said, oh shoot. I was like, where the hell did this come from? Okay, thank you, courts. So I'm doing a bit of research, and I was like, wait a second, they never even served me. So that's what it was. All right, bet. Now I got the information. Now I answer it. The first step you do is you got to answer the debt. You got to fill out the answer form. Depending on what state you are, there's forms that you fill out. And a lot of times it's okay to write a simple letter to answer your debt. But I always recommend using the forms because the forms is standard and it has all the necessary detailed questions that you need to answer, so it could be appropriated on your docket number. So it's very important to deal with the forms first. And then if you want to, and a lot of times you can add additional statement with it, attachment and stuff like that. In the state of New Jersey, we got it good out here, yo. We don't have to go in person. We can do it electronically on a computer. So I like Jersey for that reason. New York, I'm not too sure if they step their game up with that, but I know New Jersey, that's how they do it. Now, that's the first step, right? Now, after that's been handled, now it's considered discovery. Because the whole thing in that letter, you want to say, oh, I want the purchase agreement. I want my balance when it was zero to charge off from previous creditor. I want my original agreement with my creditor. Like I want my terms and conditions. I want all that, terms and agreements. I want all that stuff. I want every information that that the government allows me to have, so I can better handle my case, whether fight it or whether to work out arrangement with them. So you request all that information, and discovery time, they get a significant amount of time to give you the information. It should be way before the court date, so you have an opportunity to respond to it. But in some cases, they'll send you one letter showing virtually nothing on it. They say that, yeah, you owe $928. That's what you're being sued for. And then you get a statement that they provide you with. And this is how you could use their own documentation as evidence for your case. So they're helping you with your own case, helping you make your case much easier. So in those cases, you take that information. It says, well, the statement here shows I went from zero to owing $328. But I got a debt saying I owe $900 something. Y'all sued me for $900 something. That's illegal. They're not allowed to do that. They have to sue you for whatever it says on there. And then they could put plus filing fees and all that stuff later. But the initial payment, the initial amount that you owe the creditor, that's the only thing they can sue for. So a lot of times they always put a different amount. So that's grounds for dismissal right there. So there's a few things that's ground for dismissal. That, or sometimes they will send an interrogatory of statements. Basically, a notatory is like a list of statements that they give the judge, because if you don't respond to it, they'll give a summary judgment where they automatically didn't even have to show up. Nobody has to show up to court because you didn't respond. So you automatically got a default judgment before you had the opportunity to go to court because you didn't respond to the court notice saying that you have to appear in court on the such and such day. Oh, no, not appear in court. That's the second step. The first step is to actually write a letter to address the debt collector. And if you don't address it within the 30 days, in New York, I think it's New Jersey's 30 days, according to the date of right now we on, it's 6/26. It could change, but right now it's 30 days. So you got to check each state to see how much time they allow you to respond. But when you receive the letter, it's going to tell you how much time you got to respond to it, and then you respond in a timely manner. Don't wait to the last minute. Do it right away. And as you respond, you answer the letter in whatever form that you put it, that you have to put to fill out the information. You make sure you send a copy to the people that's suing you. It's very important, with a return receipt from the U.S. Postal Service. It's very important that, certified through U.S. Postal Service return receipt. And the reason why you want that, because you want to show proof that you requested for said documentation that we just talked about. Because the whole thing is they're obligated by the law to provide you this documentation. Now, what you praying on, and I'm not praying on, most of the time, they're not going to send you the documentation. They might send you one letter showing some indiscrepancies, some craziness. And that's beautiful, because now when you go to court, when your court date is set, your trial date is set, now you go to trial, half the time they don't even want to fight you. A lot of times they probably won't even stand up, like it says, Kurt the Jerk versus such and such and such. And such attorney is for other people, but he's for that same company that you having problems with, but he's not going to stand up for you. You know why? Because he didn't even get your docket. He didn't get your information, because they're not even trying to pursue you, because you actually challenged the debt already. So they know that you're going to fight it. So they don't want no business with you. And that's beautiful. You know why? Because if they don't have the information, now when you go in front of a judge, first of all, you go to mediation. Mediation, the attorneys have to try to collect some kind of money from you. They're like, oh, we'll give you 70% off. Oh, we'll give you 80% off. Oh, you owe $1,000? How about pay $200? We can make you pay $200 right now. We could do agreement. We see the judge, and then you're all set. Pay $200 and you're all set. And you be like, nope. Or they'd be like, oh, well, if you can't afford to pay $200, then we could do a payment arrangement. You could pay, how about $25 a month? Can you do $25 a month? The reason, and this is very careful, guys, this is very important, and I want everybody to pay attention to this right here. The reason why they want you to do payment arrangements, because when they write out the stipulation, they are praying for you to fail. They're praying for you to miss one payment, because you miss one payment, now you're on the hook for the whole $1,000 and then some. Before you just had to pay $200, but you didn't have the whole money. So now they're gonna hook you for it. So that's why they quick to say, oh, well, if you don't got all the money, we could just do a payment arrangement. How much money you got now? Oh, you know what? How about $10 a month? Remind you, it's a $200. They settle to pay, right? So they don't mind if you pay $10 a month, because they're hoping one of those $10 don't make it. And now if those $10 don't make it, now they can file a claim, a motion, and default for the whole amount now, because the agreement is that you're supposed to pay $10 a month. So if you miss 1 month, no matter what your circumstances, to me, I advise anybody, if it's that low amount, and if it might be a lot to you, I recommend you pay it. And the reason why I tell you to pay it is because you don't know how life be life, and you might mess around and get yourself caught up in some situation where you can't pay that little $10. It happens. Or you forget. It can happen. I promise you, things like that. It could be the most simplest things. $10 gonna cost you $1,000. So you got to be very careful. And another thing too, if you do agreement, make sure they're not saying, oh, we're going to do a forgiveness for the remaining amount. The reason why you don't want to do a forgiveness of the remaining amount, the $800, and you only pay $200, the reason why you don't want to do that, because here's the trick. At the end of the year, you're going to get a 1099 form showing expense. It's showing that you have a loan out, or how much you in total. So now you have to add that to your taxes. Now it's going to mess up your taxes more. Now you have to pay more taxes, because it shows that you have all this extra money. Even though you didn't pay it, they're going to say that you forgived it. So you have to pay taxes on the forgiveness amount. So if it's $800, then I guess you do the taxes for whatever state you live in for that amount. So it's not worth it. So I recommend you tell them, listen, if you have to do a payment arrangement, make sure it's nothing wrong with settling with a debt collector. If you don't want the headache, if you don't feel like challenging, there's nothing wrong with it. You do whatever you feel is best for you. If you feel like you're not good at advocating and you can't afford an attorney, I understand it. Sometimes we in hard places. So if that's the case, make sure if you do settle, see if you can pay the full amount in one shot so you can get it over with. That's very important. Yo, debt is crazy, man. And the way these credit agencies are going out there and taking advantage is insane, man. That's why I tell everybody, I recommend you go to CFPB, Credit Protection Bureau. See if that agency that's suing you have any type of class action lawsuits or complaints. So something that you may be able to reference in your defense against them. Now, for example, let me give you a perfect example. Depending on what state you are and depending on what judge you're dealing with, sometimes they cool with affidavits, like not physical people, but just regular paper affidavits. They cool with a judge. Say, oh, well, the affidavit says that such and such says that this debt is yours. Now, what say if that debt collection agency has a history of lying, deceptive practice? So now you can say, well, Your Honor, with all due respect, they have a history of lying, and I have the records to prove it. I have an article from the government website at CFPB, Consumer Protection Bureau, in which they had to pay out a lawsuit of $27 million. So now you have some level of evidence to show that they're not trustworthy. So now you could tell the judge, like, listen, I want to do a deep dive and examine into the situation, judge. If it's all right with you, I would like to have, they didn't provide this for me, but if they can't provide this, I want a dismissal. I'm trying to get a purchase agreement. I'm trying to get a title. I'm trying to get a bill of sale. I'm trying to get my original statement from the credit card agency showing a zero balance leading up to the balance that they say I owe. Because if they have all that information, then I'd be happy to settle with them or happy to make a payment. But apparently they never gave me that. And one thing you don't do is lie to a judge. Admit everything, every single truth. But one thing you don't do is say that you owe the debt through this agency. Like, let's say, and I'm just using it for just the sake of a company. I'm not saying it's them. Let's say Credit One Bank, right? Credit One Bank is a credit card agency too. And let's say that you have business with them, right? Now the debt buyer bought the debt, and they allegedly bought the debt, and now they're trying to sue you with it. So if they say, oh, so does it show that you owe this balance? You're going to say no. Oh, does it say you owe this balance with Credit One? You could say yes. It doesn't admit guilt to any issues. You're just admitting to the actual debt from the original collection agency, and which you got to be honest with that. That doesn't mean that you can lose your case. No, because the burden of proof is on the debt buyers, and they have to show proof that they bought the debt from that collection agency. And when they can't provide it, guess what? Dismissal, baby. And then you got to double check your credit report and see how it's being your situation is being reported on the credit report. Because sometimes, and they're not supposed to do this. This is illegal. This is violating a fair debt collection practice. And what they'll do sometimes is they'll put some on your credit report, and then at the bottom it says original creditor. It'll have their name instead of the original creditor's name. That's a violation. They're not supposed to do that. So I'm just letting you guys know it's very important. And I'm going to make more videos about this. I just had a court case today. I won. Obviously, I won. I was over prepared. I didn't even get a chance to talk. Before I talked, the case was dismissed. I was like, damn, I wanted to fight a little bit. I had a little spice in me. I was ready to fight, but I was like, damn, they dismissed it so quick. I barely could get a word out. The judge looked at me like, yeah, I know you wanted to say a lot, but no, dismissed, buddy. Sorry. Bye-bye. Have a good day. I'm like, thumbs up. Thank you. Thank you. But I was amped up. I had all my ammunition. Let me show you. I had all my papers right here. Look at it all ripped up, look chewed out, right? I had all my papers right here ready to bust that butt. You know what I'm saying? Because what comes next with a dismissal, if I choose to, and which I really don't, I don't got time to, and sometimes I do counterclaims. You could do counterclaims if you have evidence to support that they violated the Fair Debt Collection Practice Act. If they violated that, you have grounds for lawsuit, and it's usually like $1,000. Now, a lot of people don't know. They figure it's $1,000 per jurisdiction. I mean, $1,000 for whatever they took out the lawsuit. No, yeah. I live in Jersey, so I could have sued them for $1,000, saying that they violate the Fair Debt Collection Act. They was doing deceptive practice. They lied, and I got the proof to show it. And guess what? I get $1,000. Now, What say if that agency that's suing you is also main headquarters in another state? Guess what? Because it's federal, the Fair Debt Collection thing is federal. You can not only sue them just in the state that they came after the charges on you, you can sue them in their hometown where they're at. And that's when and once you get one lawsuit and you win, now you just contact attorney for that state. Hey, listen, I can send you all the paperwork. Can you handle this? Because you don't want to pay out your pocket. But if they feel that it's a slam dunk case, they're gonna sue on your behalf and they're gonna get their money, through them. But that's just something to think about. But like I said before, there's nothing wrong with settling with a debt collection agency to get it out the way. But you got to make sure that they really own the debt, or you can mess around, spend all this money, settle, so-called settle, and the next thing you know, that same debt pops up again a couple of years later, a year or two later. And also remember too, each state is different when it comes to the statute of limitations. Some states is 3 years, 6 years, 7 years. So make sure that when they're coming after you for this debt, make sure that it's within statute of limitations. Because if it's not, that's a grounds for dismissal right there. And that happens often too. And some of these credit debt agencies, the debt buyer agencies, they the ones that get in trouble because a lot of times they know that they're outside of jurisdiction, outside of they have no standing on this case, and they still prosecute it. I mean, they still go after it anyway. That's why you can sue them and do a countersuit. So they coming for you for $800 now. You countersuit for $1,000. So who's winning? Who got some little money in their pocket? Maybe you can use it to pay a legitimate bill or go shopping. I don't know. But I'm gonna let you guys go. I made this video long enough. I only wanted to make it for 25 minutes, but I guess I hit the mark. I'm at 31 minutes. And I hope this video was informative. And if you have any questions, feel free to hit me up on Kurt the Jerk on YouTube. You can go to my email, which is my email. Matter of fact, you can go to Awareness Academy emails. Awareness Academy 411 at gmail.com. So you can check us out. If you want to email me about some questions. Remember, I'm not an attorney. I'm just an experienced person that's been in court because I have bad issues when it comes to debt. So without further ado, I'm going to let you guys go. And I hope everybody have a wonderful and blessed day. Peace. Woohoo! It's a beautiful morning. Wait a second. It's not the morning. Wait a second. It's the afternoon. It's a beautiful. Wait a second. It's not the afternoon. It's the evening. It's a beautiful evening. Okay, I'm done. All right. Peace.